The encounter. The ancient alien temple stood in silence. Tall stone pillars reached for the sky, carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly. A cold wind swept through the broken arches, carrying the sound of distant echoes. The human soldier, Alex, walked carefully, his boots crunching against the cracked floor. He was alone, tired, and far from home, but his eyes burned with determination. Captured days ago, dragged across alien lands, he now stood before the place the locals called the Hall of Blood. It was a throne room, vast and endless, lit by fire that burned blue instead of red. Alien guards lined the walls, tall figures with glowing armor, their faces hidden behind sharp masks. They held long spears, and their gaze never shifted. The atmosphere was heavy, suffocating, as if the air itself warned him not to breathe too loudly. At the far end she sat, the alien princess, feared across the stars. Her presence was both beautiful and terrifying. Her skin glowed faintly under the torchlight. Her hair flowed like strands of silver light, and her eyes blazed with a fire that could melt steel. She wore an armored gown that shimmered with strange energy, making her look untouchable, divine. Every alien in the chamber bowed their head before her. None dared to meet her gaze. But Alex was human, and humans had a way of seeing things differently. He lifted his head slowly, meeting her eyes. He should have been terrified. He should have looked away. But instead, the words slipped out before his mind could stop them. "You're kind of cute," he said, his voice trembling but honest. The sound of his words cut through the chamber like a blade. The guards gasped, their spears rattling against the floor. No one had ever spoken to the princess in such a way. To call her cute was unthinkable. Her people considered her more than royalty. They considered her a living weapon, a goddess of war. And now, a fragile human dared to address her like some ordinary girl. For a moment, silence stretched across the throne room. Even a fire seemed to hold its breath. The princess tilted her head slightly, her lips curling. But it was not a smile. It was the sharp edge of fury. She rose from her throne, and the very ground shook beneath her. Her armored gown flared with light, and a glowing spear appeared in her hand. The energy crackled through the air, humming with deadly power. Her voice echoed across the hall, cold and sharp like a blade. "No one has ever dared to call me that," she said. "Do you think yourself brave, human, or merely foolish?" Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. He wanted to speak, but his throat was dry. And yet, deep inside, he felt no regret, because when he looked at her, he did not see just a weapon or a goddess. He saw a girl trapped by the weight of a crown. The princess's eyes narrowed. Without warning, she struck. Her spear moved so fast that the air itself cracked. It came down with the force of thunder, aimed straight for his chest. The guards expected his death. They had already imagined his blood staining the floor. But at the last second, Alex stumbled back, the tip of the spear missing his heart by inches. The strike shattered the stone floor where he had stood, sending cracks racing in every direction. Dust rose into the air, filling his lungs. His ears rang from the force of the blow. The princess did not stop. She spun the spear with grace, her movements fast and flawless. She could have killed him instantly, yet she did not. Her next strike came close again, close enough to remind him how fragile he was, close enough to remind everyone in the hall that she was in control. Alex staggered, his chest heaving. His body screamed at him to give up, but his eyes remained locked on her. Something in her gaze told him this was not about execution. This was a test. The guards whispered among themselves. "Why has she not killed him already?" One hissed. "She plays with him." Another said, "She tests the human's courage." The princess raised her spear once more. But this time, she stopped just before the blade touched his throat. The air sizzled, the energy of the weapon humming against his skin. Her voice was low, almost dangerous in its calm. "If you dare to call me that word again, then survive me," she said. prove that humans are not as weak as they appear. Alex's chest rose and fell. His mind raced, his body trembled. But in that moment, he understood this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The chamber of aliens watched in silence. The princess stepped back, lowering her spear, and with a single gesture, she commanded the guards to prepare the arena. The test had begun, and the fate of one human, maybe even the fate of his entire kind, now rested on a single reckless word. The deadly blow. The chamber shook with whispers as the princess lowered her spear. The guards tightened their grip, unsure if they should celebrate his near death or prepare for another strike. The human, Alex, stood there breathless, dust clinging to his face, his chest rising and falling like a storm. He had survived her first strike, and that alone was unthinkable. The princess's eyes burned with something dangerous, not just anger, but curiosity. She stepped closer, the glow of her spear lighting her sharp features. "Cute," she repeated, the word rolling off her tongue as if it were poison. "You speak it as if I am some common girl." Her voice carried across the hall like thunder. "On my world, words carry weight, and you will bleed for yours." Alex swallowed, his throat dry, but he refused to bow. He had been trained to face death, yet this was different. Here stood not a soldier, not a ruler, but something far greater. And yet, he could not erase the truth of what he had said. She was terrifying, yes, but there was something undeniably human in her presence. Without warning, she moved again. The spear hummed with a blinding light as it sliced through the air. The force of her swing shattered another stone column, pieces crashing around them. The hall trembled as if the entire temple would collapse. Gasps rose from the alien guards, who had never seen her fight with such reckless fury. Alex ducked, rolling across the cracked floor, his lungs burning. Every movement was survival, instinct guiding his body faster than his thoughts. The edge of the spear scraped his arm, leaving behind a glowing mark that burned his flesh. Pain seared through him, but he clenched his teeth, refusing to cry out. He could not show weakness. Not here, not before her. The princess stopped for a moment, watching him steady himself. Her lips curled in something between a sneer and a smile. "You endure," she said coldly. "Perhaps humans are not entirely made of glass." The guards muttered among themselves. "Why does she not kill him?" one whispered. "She wants him to fight," another answered. "She wants him to break before her." The princess raised her hand, signaling. Two guards stepped forward, tossing weapons at Alex's feet. Crude blades, alien steel heavier than anything he had trained with. The message was clear: fight or die. Alex reached down, fingers brushing the cold metal. The blade hummed faintly, too heavy for his arm, yet he lifted it anyway. He looked up at her, sweat dripping into his eyes, and managed to smirk. "If you want me dead, princess, you'll have to work harder than that," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. A ripple of shock moved through the room. No one spoke to her like that, not even her own generals. The princess's eyes narrowed, fire dancing in their depths. For a moment, Alex thought she might end it instantly, but instead she laughed, a sharp, dangerous laugh that echoed off the walls. "You amuse me, human," she said, her tone laced with both mockery and intrigue. "Very well, prove yourself." She struck again, faster this time. Alex lifted the heavy blade, sparks flying as steel met alien energy. The force rattled his arms, nearly breaking him. He slid back across the floor, his boots scraping, yet he held on. His muscles screamed, his bones ached, but he did not fall. The clash sent a wave of silence through the guards. A human had just stood against their princess's blow, something they thought impossible. Her expression shifted, the fury in her eyes replaced by something colder, more calculating. She stepped back, circling him like a predator circling prey. "You resist," she said slowly, her voice calm, almost dangerous in its quiet. "Perhaps you are worth more than your kind's reputation." Alex's chest heaved, every breath cutting like knives. But inside him, something burned brighter than fear. For the first time since his capture, he felt control. Not complete, not enough to win, but enough to survive. The princess raised her spear once more, holding it high. The glow filled the chamber, casting long shadows across the walls. Every guard bowed their head, knowing what was to come. This was not a test anymore, it was judgment. Her spear came down like lightning. Alex braced himself, lifting the blade with all his strength. The clash exploded like thunder, light blinding, sound deafening. Stone shattered, fire hissed, dust filled the air. When the light faded, Alex was still standing, his blade broken in half. His hands bled, his arms shook, but his eyes met hers with unbroken defiance. The hall was silent, every alien frozen. The princess lowered her spear slowly, studying him. Then, for the first time, she smiled, not with cruelty but with something else. "Interesting," she whispered, her voice almost soft. "You may yet live, human." The chamber erupted in confusion, some guards outraged, others whispering in awe. But Alex knew one thing. The deadly blow she had struck was not meant to kill him. It was meant to change him. And in that moment, he understood. This was only the beginning of a far more dangerous game. The trial begins. The princess did not strike again. Not yet. Her glowing spear lowered slightly. Her eyes locked on the human who refused to kneel. The silence in the temple felt heavy, every guard waiting for her command. Alex stood with his broken blade, his chest rising and falling, blood dripping from his hands, but his gaze steady. The princess raised her hand, and the guards obeyed without hesitation. They formed a circle around him, their spears pointed inward, their armor shining in the blue light. The throne room shifted, stone walls sliding open to reveal a massive arena below. The crowd outside roared, alien voices echoing like thunder. This was not just punishment anymore. This was a trial, a spectacle. Alex was dragged into the arena, the broken blade still in his grip. The ground beneath him was cracked stone, stained with the marks of battles fought long before. Alien banners hung from the walls, and strange fire pits cast shadows that moved like living creatures. Above, the princess watched from a raised platform, her spear glowing faintly at her side. Her expression unreadable, caught between fury, curiosity, and something else. A massive gate opened with a screech of rusted metal. From it stepped the first challenger, an alien warrior twice Alex's size, his body armored with bone-like plates. He carried a heavy axe that sparked with energy, each swing powerful enough to split stone. The crowd cheered, chanting in a tongue Alex could not understand, but he knew the meaning. They wanted blood. The warrior charged, his axe slamming down. Alex rolled aside, the blade carving deep into the ground, shards of stone flying. He gripped his broken weapon tighter, his body screaming with exhaustion, but his mind focused. He could not outmatch them in strength, only in speed, only in cunning. The alien swung again, faster this time, the axe whistling through the air. Alex ducked under it, slashing at the creature's leg with the jagged edge of his broken sword. The strike left only a shallow cut, but it was enough. The warrior stumbled, surprised that the human dared to wound him at all. The crowd hissed, some in anger, some in shock. The princess leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. For the first time, she saw the human not as prey, but as something unpredictable. He was not fighting with power, but with wit, adapting to every move. The warrior roared and swung again, but Alex twisted his body, letting the strike miss by inches. He slammed his shoulder into the alien's chest, unbalancing him. Before the warrior could recover, Alex grabbed a piece of shattered stone and smashed it against his mask. The alien fell with a crash, his axe slipping from his grip. The crowd went silent, stunned by the sight. A human had just defeated one of their warriors in open combat. Alex stood there, panting, blood dripping down his arm, but still alive, still standing. He picked up the fallen axe, the weight nearly too much, but he refused to let go. The princess rose from her seat, her voice echoing through the arena. Again, she commanded, her tone sharp and unyielding. Another gate opened, and this time 2 warriors stepped out, their weapons long spears crackling with energy. Alex's legs trembled, his arms ached, but he tightened his grip on the axe. He could not give up. Not now. Not while her burning eyes followed his every move. The 2 warriors attacked at once, their spears thrusting with deadly precision. Alex spun the heavy axe, deflecting one strike, but missing the other. The spear cut across his shoulder, searing pain rushing through him. He cried out, but his anger pushed him forward. He swung wildly, the axe smashing against the ground, forcing them back. The crowd roared again, the noise shaking the arena. The princess's lips curved slightly, not a full smile, but something close. She whispered to herself, "He fights like no other." Her guards looked uneasy, for they knew what this meant. The trial was supposed to break him, but instead, it revealed something dangerous. Alex staggered, blood staining his torn uniform, but he refused to fall. Every breath was a battle, every step a war. The 2 warriors pressed forward, but he found rhythm in the chaos. One spear thrust came too high. Alex ducked under and swung the axe, the weight carrying it through armor and flesh. The warrior collapsed, the crowd erupting in disbelief. The last opponent hissed, his spear spinning like a storm. Alex barely blocked, the clash sending shock through his arms. The spear cut across his ribs, fire burning in his chest. But he stepped in close, too close for the spear to work, and slammed the axe's hilt into the alien's jaw. The warrior stumbled, and Alex drove his broken blade into the gap in his armor, ending the fight. The arena shook with noise, chants, and fury. Some demanded his death. Others whispered of his strength. Above them all, the princess stood silent, her glowing eyes locked on him. She raised her spear slowly, and the crowd hushed. Her voice was calm, but carried across every corner of the chamber. "This trial is not over," she declared. "This is only the beginning." Alex's knees nearly gave out, but he forced himself to stand tall. He had survived the trial's first wave, but deep inside, he knew the truth. The real challenge was not the warriors, not the weapons. It was her, the alien princess, who had set this path, and he had no choice but to walk it, breaking expectations. The arena had quieted, the echoes of battle still vibrating in the air. Alex's bloodied arms hung at his sides, yet his eyes did not waver. He had survived the first wave of her trial, but the princess's gaze told him this was only a prelude, not the real test. She stepped down from her platform, her armored boots striking the stone with authority. Her glowing spear hung at her side, a silent warning. The guards parted automatically, letting her walk freely among the fallen. Alex straightened, gripping his broken blade tightly. Every muscle in his body screamed, every nerve burned with exhaustion. Yet he forced himself to stand tall, for he knew surrender was not an option. "You survive because you are clever," she said, her voice cutting through the silence like ice. "But cleverness alone will not carry you to the end." Her eyes narrowed, studying him as if she could peer into his very thoughts. "Do you understand what you face, human?" Alex swallowed, tasting blood in his mouth. "I understand enough," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. "Enough to survive." A murmur ran through the guards. Never had a human spoken so boldly. Even the princess's closest advisors exchanged uneasy glances. She had expected fear, obedience, trembling. Instead, she saw defiance, determination, and something she could not yet name. The princess raised her spear slowly, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. Cracks spread across the arena floor, glowing with blue energy. From the fissures, strange alien creatures emerged. They were massive, with armored scales and glowing eyes, moving with unnatural speed. Their claws scraped the stone, sparks flying with every step. The guards recoiled, stepping back, unsure if they should intervene. But the princess did not flinch. She only nodded, as if giving silent approval. Alex's eyes widened, but he did not step back. The first creature lunged, its claws tearing through the air. He dodged just in time, rolling across the floor. The second charged, jaws snapping, and Alex swung his broken blade, catching the edge of its armor. It screeched, turning its glowing eyes toward him. He could hear the hiss of the others behind him, moving faster than he could run. The princess's voice echoed across the arena, calm but powerful. "Do not run, human. Do not falter. Face them as you face me." Alex's chest heaved, his arms shaking. The creatures were relentless, faster and stronger than anything he had fought before. Yet he found a rhythm, moving with the chaos rather than against it. He dodged, blocked, and struck whenever a weak point appeared. His mind raced, calculating, predicting, adapting. Every second felt like a lifetime, but he could not stop, could not hesitate. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Never had a human moved like this. Never had one survived such a test. The princess's eyes gleamed with something new. Respect, maybe, or perhaps curiosity. She had expected him to break, but instead he thrived under pressure. Alex stumbled for a moment, his leg catching on debris. A creature lunged at him, claws wide, jaws snapping. Instinct took over, and he dove, rolling past it and striking its side with all his strength. The creature howled, stumbling back. He leapt to his feet, muscles screaming. The princess's gaze followed him, unwavering, intense. "You are different," she said, her voice low but carrying through the arena. "Different from any human I have seen." Alex did not reply. He had no words, only survival. He dodged another strike, blocked with the jagged edge of his broken blade. The creatures shrieked, spinning around him, yet he moved faster, smarter, anticipating every attack. Then, with a movement too quick to follow, he vaulted onto the back of one of the smaller creatures, driving his blade deep into its armored spine. The creature screamed, thrashing violently, and he jumped off, rolling as it fell. The others hesitated, sensing the danger in underestimating him. Alex's chest burned, his arms numb, but he stood, facing them, ready for the next assault. The princess smiled faintly, her glowing spear lowering slightly. For the first time, she allowed herself a moment of intrigue. "Perhaps this trial was not for you alone," she whispered. "Perhaps it is for me as well." The creatures moved again, faster, more coordinated. But Alex was ready, his body moving with a precision born of desperation. Every strike, every dodge, every movement calculated. He was no longer just surviving. He was controlling the flow of battle. The impossible was becoming possible. And in that moment, he understood the true nature of her test. It was not merely strength, nor skill, nor courage. It was a lesson, a challenge, a chance to see what a human could endure. And perhaps a chance for something more. The alliance forms. The arena was silent after the last wave. Alex stood amidst the fallen creatures, chest heaving, sweat mixing with blood. The princess's eyes were fixed on him, glowing brighter than before. For the first time, she stepped down from her platform completely. Her boots echoing on the stone as she approached, calm but radiating authority. "Human," she said, her voice carrying across the arena, "you have survived every challenge I have sent." Alex wiped the blood from his face with a trembling hand. He could barely stand, yet his gaze did not falter. "I'm still here," he replied, voice low but firm. "I survive because I must." The guards in the crowd watched, unsure of what was unfolding. The princess did not raise her weapon. She did not command another strike. Instead, she circled him slowly, her gaze sharp, analyzing every move. She spoke again, softer this time, almost a whisper. "Few humans have ever faced this trial," she said, "and even fewer have reached this point." Alex did not flinch, though his muscles ached. He knew this was a turning point, the moment where survival became more than just life or death. "Why do you test me like this?" he asked. The princess paused, the glow from her eyes dimming slightly. "It is not merely a test," she said. "It is a lesson and a choice." A low hum filled the arena, the ground trembling as energy shifted. The remaining creatures retreated to the fissures, disappearing into the cracks. The crowd murmured, watching their princess in confusion. Alex's broken blade drooped in his hand, but he did not lower it. He understood instinctively that the trial was evolving, changing. The princess stopped in front of him, raising her spear slightly. She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "Survive this," she said, "and you will gain more than life." Her voice carried a promise, strange and dangerous. Alex's heart pounded, yet he felt a spark of hope. Could it be possible that she was offering more than survival? Could there be a way to turn this deadly trial into something else? "Alliance?" he asked, unsure if it was correct. The word hung in the air, simple yet heavy with meaning. The princess's eyes widened briefly, a hint of surprise crossing her face. Then she lowered her spear fully, stepping back slightly. "Yes," she said, her voice steady, deliberate. "You may call it that." The crowd gasped, guards shifting nervously. No human had ever formed an alliance with the princess before. Yet here it was happening, right in front of them. Alex extended his hand, dirty, bloody, trembling. The princess studied it, then mirrored the gesture, her armored hand firm but gentle. Their hands met, a spark of energy humming between them. The energy pulsed, coursing through the arena, causing the air to shimmer. Even the fallen creatures stirred slightly, sensing the shift. The princess spoke again, her voice softer, almost personal. "You are not just clever, human, you are adaptable. You see beyond fear, beyond pain. You understand survival is not just power, but trust and strategy." Alex nodded, though exhaustion weighed on him like a stone. "I do not understand everything," he admitted, "but I know enough to keep going, to fight with you." Her eyes glowed brighter, approving. The guards relaxed slightly, sensing that the princess had made a decision. Not an act of mercy, but a choice, calculated and deliberate. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the arena, red lights flashing along the walls. The princess's gaze snapped to the far gates, tense, alert. Alex followed, understanding instinctively that the real danger had not yet arrived. She whispered, almost to herself, "Now, the real trial begins." Together, human. Alex felt a strange connection, a bond he could not explain, a strange sense of partnership, forged in blood and battle. The arena seemed to shift around them, the fissures glowing brighter. From the depths, more creatures emerged, larger, faster, deadlier. But this time, Alex did not hesitate. He stood beside the princess, ready to face whatever came next. Their hands tightened together briefly, the human and the alien, an unlikely alliance forged in fire and survival. The crowd fell silent, sensing the tension. The princess raised her spear, Alex lifted his broken blade, and together, they stepped forward into the unknown, the final confrontation. The arena trembled as the massive creatures poured through the glowing fissures. Alex and the princess stood side by side, their hands briefly touching before separating to face the chaos. He could feel the pulse of her power, the energy flowing from her spear. It was a strange reassurance, a connection neither of them had expected. The creatures roared, claws scraping the stone, eyes glowing like molten fire. But Alex did not flinch, his broken blade raised, muscles tense, mind sharp. The princess moved with fluid precision, her spear slicing through the air. Every strike controlled, deadly, yet beautiful in its grace. Alex followed her rhythm, dodging, striking, using her movements as a guide. He realized that this was no longer just survival, it was synergy. Two warriors, different worlds, united in purpose, facing an enemy beyond imagination. A creature lunged at him from the side, massive jaws snapping. Alex rolled, narrowly escaping and drove his blade into its side. It shrieked, thrashing violently, but he leapt back, safe for the moment. The princess's voice cut through the chaos, calm but commanding. "Do not fear them, human. They are strong, but you are stronger together." More creatures came, larger, faster, relentless. Alex ducked under a swinging tail, using its momentum to vault onto a smaller creature. He struck, twisted, rolled, every movement precise, calculated. The princess spun, her spear a blur, impaling two of the larger creatures simultaneously. Their combined attacks caused the remaining creatures to hesitate, sensing the danger. Even the arena itself seemed to respond, the glowing fissures pulsing in rhythm with their movements. Alex noticed the creatures were coordinating, learning, adapting. He shouted to the princess, "They're learning, adjusting to us." She nodded, eyes glowing with determination. "Then we adapt faster," she replied. Their attacks became a dance, movement following movement, countering every strike, predicting every lunge. It was a rhythm, a deadly ballet, uniting human intuition and alien precision. A massive shadow loomed above them, one creature larger than the rest. Its scales shimmered with energy, and its roar shook the arena walls. Alex felt a chill, realizing this was the final adversary, the apex of the challenge. The princess tightened her grip on her spear, energy crackling around it. "We end this together," she said, voice low, confident, unwavering. Alex nodded, chest burning, legs trembling. He had never felt so alive, so focused, so connected to another being. The creature charged, smashing the stone floor, debris flying everywhere. Alex ducked under a swinging claw, rolled to the side, and struck at its flank. The princess met the creature head-on, spears stabbing deep into its armored chest. It roared, thrashing violently, knocking guards and smaller creatures aside. Alex climbed onto its back, planting his feet firmly. He struck again and again, targeting weak points he had memorized in moments of instinct. The creature bucked, twisted, but he held on, refusing to be thrown. Together, human and alien, they pressed their attack. The arena quaked, dust and energy swirling around them. Finally, with a final coordinated strike, the massive creature screamed and collapsed. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling of the glowing fissures. The remaining creatures froze, then retreated into the shadows, disappearing into the cracks. Alex dropped to the floor, chest heaving, legs trembling. The princess lowered her spear, breathing heavily, eyes still glowing. For the first time, she smiled, a faint, approving curve of her lips. "You have done it, human," she said, voice soft, almost personal. "You have survived what no one thought possible." Alex looked at her, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it together," he said, voice hoarse, full of relief and pride. She nodded, slowly, acknowledging the truth in his words. "This alliance," she said, "is stronger than any test, stronger than any challenge." The crowd erupted, cheers echoing through the arena. Guards and advisors watched, stunned, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. Alex felt a strange warmth, the bond with the princess solidifying. It was more than respect, more than survival. It was a connection forged in the fires of battle. And as they stood together, the light from the fissures reflecting off their bodies, Alex knew that nothing would ever be the same. For both of them, and for the universe they had just begun to conquer. A new dawn. The arena was quiet now, the echoes of battle fading into the stone walls. Alex and the princess stood together, side by side, their weapons lowered but their senses alert. The glow from the fissures reflected in their eyes, casting strange shadows across their faces. For the first time, Alex noticed a subtle smile on her lips, calm and almost human. "Human," she said, her voice carrying through the silence. "We have passed the trials, but this is not the end." Alex looked around, seeing the guards and the crowd still frozen in awe. He wiped sweat and blood from his face, muscles aching, heart still pounding. "What now?" he asked, curiosity and caution mixing in his tone. The princess turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the twin suns were rising slowly. "It is a new beginning," she said, voice steady, eyes glowing softly. "A world beyond these trials awaits, and we must decide our place in it." Alex followed her gaze, feeling the weight of the words. He realized that surviving the arena was only the start. The real challenge would be to navigate this alliance, this trust, this connection. The princess lowered her spear completely, stepping closer. Her presence was powerful, but not threatening. "You fought well, human," she said, almost tenderly. "Not just with strength, but with heart, strategy, and courage." Alex nodded, still catching his breath. "I did what I had to do," he replied, "but I couldn't have done it without you." She studied him for a moment, then extended her hand, not in command, but in partnership. Alex took it, their fingers locking firmly, a silent promise passing between them. The energy from her hand flowed into his, warm and electrifying. It was a bond forged not only by battle, but by understanding, by choice. A soft wind blew through the arena, carrying whispers from the fissures. Alex felt it in his bones, the sense that something greater was awakening. The creatures had retreated, but the world beyond the arena was alive, unpredictable, dangerous. Yet now, it felt different, as if the universe itself acknowledged their alliance. Together, Alex said, voice steady, "Yes," she replied, her eyes bright with determination. "Together, we shape what comes next." The sun rose fully, casting golden light across the arena. Shadows retreated, and the stone walls glimmered with reflections. Alex and the princess stepped forward, leaving behind the echoes of battle. Every step was cautious yet confident, a silent declaration to the world. They would face it not as adversaries, not as strangers, but as allies. Their bond stronger than fear, stronger than challenge, stronger than any test. The crowd watched silently, unsure how to react. The guards lowered their weapons, some in awe, some in relief. The princess looked back once, her eyes meeting Alex's. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, unspoken but clear. "This is only the beginning," she whispered, and Alex understood fully. The trials had ended, but their story was just starting. The arena doors opened, revealing a vast world beyond. Forests with alien flora, skies filled with strange flying creatures, mountains glowing faintly, rivers shimmering with unknown energy. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of life around him. The princess stepped forward, leading the way. He followed, their steps in unison, a symbol of trust and shared destiny. Every obstacle they had faced, every battle they had survived, had prepared them for this moment. As they walked into the new world, side by side, Alex felt a sense of clarity, of purpose. The trials had tested them, shaped them, but had not broken them. The alliance they formed was more than strategy or survival. It was hope, courage, and unity. And in that moment, as the twin suns rose higher, the human and the alien princess looked toward the horizon, knowing that together they could face anything, conquer anything, and change the fate of worlds.